Ready.
Hi, Janai. How are you? Thank you for joining me on Inside the Industry. I am stoked to have you, girl.
Yay, me too.
Me too. I haven't seen you in a minute, so I was like, yay, I get to sit down with her. I get to kiki about some tattoos, which with Halloween season coming up, you are perfect to talk to. So I want to dive right into that because, again, as if people know you have a long, long resume of things and areas of the industry that you have touched. But today we are talking tattoos, because as far as like visual memory,
Right.
that's like what I think of, I associate you with, because it's such your niche. And also you're really like, you have a finesse with it, I think. Like, yes, people know how to do tattoos, we learn, but like there's something to yours that are extra special. Tell me a little bit about your process as to even where that love or skill like came from for you.
Well, I mean, I tell people this a lot is I think it just came from the natural rebellion in me because I grew up super religious. Like I was like a little hellraiser. I didn't intentionally set out to be that way, but because I was raised so strict and so religious, that was like taboo and forbidden. And so the more it was restricted for me, the more I wanted to explore it. So that was like, I mean, I remember. Yeah, like I was about 5. I always say that it was about because that's my earliest memory of it. I was about 5 years, and I saw my dad had a friend who had a tattoo on his arm, and we're in the religion I grew up in. You weren't allowed to have tattoos unless you converted over. So you had a tattoo, you converted, whatever. You can't do anything.
And what religion is that? Just so we know. What
they
is
were Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, you couldn't have tattoos.
No,
and my dad's friend, no, that's not, you can't have that. Okay. And my dad's friend converted and he had a Popeye tattoo on his arm. And I was like mesmerized by this thing. And anytime I saw him, I would like stare at it. I would ask questions. And like, I was very, very young, but in my mind, the vision of it is so clear. And I later on got anchor tattoos for the memorial of that thing that happened in my life. It's just the epic moment where I realized it was something that was so special and so different. And there was a tattoo shop. And at the time, a lot of people don't know this, tattoos were illegal in New York when I was growing up in the 80s. The tattoos were illegal in New York from like the 60s to 96, 97.
Not now.
Yes, a lot of it. So for about 60 some odd years, the tattoos were illegal in New York. There were some spots, hidden spots. You had to like call someone who knew someone who worked in a basement or a garage or like somebody's barber shop or something like that. What? But there was an exception where there could be a tattoo shop in like Long Island for some reason. I don't know why, but there was a tattoo shop that we would pass and I would stare at it out the window, and it was a very dark, dank place. It was like the 80s too, so it's like biker scene, and I was just enthralled with it. And I actually got my first tattoo from that place.
Get out. So you feel like you're like born with this. Like if you're telling me that's like an innate thing that was in you, like that it was
life. I think it was something that happened in a past life that it would just inherently, like when I was little, just knew that something was very special about it. And my grandfather at the time, I would draw like very, I guess, maturely, because he said to me at 5, he's like, you're going to be an artist, because he saw the drawings that I would do. So
our grandparents always know. They're so good.
I don't know. He was a self-taught artist as well, and he just always said that to me. So from that age, it stuck with me, and I just knew that there was something very special and different about putting something on your body and decorating yourself. And I mean, at the time, this was not, you're talking about like early 80s, okay?
Yeah.
Women didn't have tattoos. The only people who had tattoos were either you were a criminal or you were in the military. And my dad's friend was in the military. So that was how he had that.
Because to think fast forward to today, where everyone in their literal mother has a tattoo.
Correct.
And it is like adorned. And to be honest, I don't even know how much, I know for sure our craft, it doesn't inhibit job getting.
Right.
Or anything like that. If anything, like you said,
it helps you.
of yourself, and it helps me. I look cool, and it's art, and it's great, and it's embraced. But I mean, my God, what a difference.
Yeah, so for me, coming up in the industry where I was, first of all, it took me years to even learn. I did temporary tattoos first, but I wanted to learn how to do real tattoos because I felt like I'm an imposter, to say for the least. I don't know how else to say it.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. But wait, so you really, like, to a gun, you know how to tattoo?
Oh yeah, no, I have my tattoo. Here's my tattoo. It's expired, but that's my tattoo license. Funny
I
enough.
am dead. Janai, little did I know, I'm like, bring you on as a tattoo expert. I had no idea you were an actual tattoo artist as well as cosmetic. Okay, fine.
Yeah. So I actually was doing temporary tattoos for 10 years before, about 12 years. I'm sorry, about 12 years before I got my tattoo license. And a lot of people think it's the other way around, that I was a tattoo artist and I started getting into temporary tattoos to do TV and film and fashion. That's not how it was, the other way around for me.
Whoa.
And I just remember saying to myself, I'm copying an art form that I don't really understand. And if I wanted it to make it as authentic and look as real as possible, I needed to really do this. Like, I had to submerge myself into that art form and that culture. So that's what I did. So when I was about 29, 30 years old when I started doing that. And I started practicing on grapefruits and stuff. And then after about 2-3 years, it took forever to get an apprenticeship because people early on, before Kat Von D, Miami Ink, all that stuff exploded, you couldn't get tattooed or get a tattoo like apprenticeship unless you really knew someone or you paid for it. I'm talking $10,000, $20,000 for an apprenticeship. And it was all male dominated. And men did not want you. And me as a little petite Asian girl, they were like, I'm not teaching you how to tattoo.
Like, get out. Yeah, no.
They were, literally, like, get out of my shop. Get out of my shop. There's no way I'm teaching you.
It's a joke, right? Oh,
and if you really do the research of the history of tattoos, it was a very secretive, very, very exclusive club. There were only a handful of guys that did it in the world, really. There wasn't a lot of people who were doing it, and it was guys who were mostly working at military bases or like at ports where the military guys would come in and they would get tattooed, or it was guys that were in prison and they figured out how to tattoo people in prison. So this was not, I came up in a time where this was not, your mom had a tattoo and girls had tattoos. When we started getting tattooed, people on the street, I had older women who were like, you're disgusting, what are you doing to your body? Like, it's just like
what a different time. Oh my God.
That's how I'm showing the image. I know I look young, but but it was a very weird time, and I was so desperate to learn that I was willing to really do anything. So I did find an apprenticeship. I ended up learning, and I really feel like that elevated my tattooing skills.
Honestly, and when I tell you finesse, you even just giving me that backstory, it does, and it shows in your work. Because like you said, I wanted to know the whys. That's how I feel when I do SFX. I'm like, bitch, I don't know why I'm doing this. I love when people try to teach me, like, why is the cut going this way? Or why is it that way? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to do it. I don't have that finesse. You, every time I see your tattoo work and your body work, there is something extra special, and it's that. It has to be that element, the fact that you have so much history, deep understanding to have an actual tattoo, because I feel like more than half your job sometimes, I know we can get artistic with it, but is a lot of the times when you have to apply a tattoo, is they searching for the realism in it? So like, this needs to look real. I need to sell this tattoo.
That was 100% my motivation behind it. And I mean, I love the culture. I love the history. And before I even got my tattoo license and my apprenticeship, I was so deep into the history of it. We're talking about thousands and millions of years ago, and like tattoo cultures in New Zealand, tattoo cultures in Russia, tattoo culture in Japan, tattoo culture in Los Angeles versus New York. It is very, so I was actually trying to get my master's degree in anthropology because I wanted to do tattoo history. I actually really wanted to get deeper into that, and I did it on my own because nobody was offering classes on something like that. And I knew that my baseline was I wanted my tattoos to look as real as possible. Because, like you said, the stories, because there's a lot of things in tattoo culture that are done purposely for certain reasons that have history to it that people don't know about. So
trust me, I'm one of them. I do not know. Oh, I just have this really pretty watercolor. I have no purpose. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, no, and that's fine too. I don't believe that everything has to have, like, I'm actually the opposite.
No,
I
right.
don't believe everything has to have a meaning. Like, I have a cheeseburger on my hand. I have like a cheap piece of cheese because I freaking like, because I think it's fun and cool and it's funny and
it's my art. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to have this deep meaning, but
Exactly.
the culture of tattoos and the history of it is so deep seated. And I think if you
Yes.
want to be really, really, really good at something, you have to dedicate your time, your life, your
Agreed.
knowledge to that thing. And that's all I've done for 20 years.
You don't want to be a jack of all trades, master of none.
Right.
So it's
correct.
like a lot of people in our industry, I feel like, okay, well, I want to learn how to do tattoos. I want to special effects. I want to do beauty. I want to do body paint. I want to do airbrush. I want to do all these things because we're kind of told acquire all these skill sets
Right.
to make sure you can say yes to whatever comes across your desk. But at the same time, if and when you choose to go about these things, I like your mindset, which is be a real pro with it.
Mhm.
Really give yourself to the research and understanding of why, so that way when you are called upon, not everything is just winging it or mediocre or kind of half-assed or just skating by just to get the job done. So I really, really respect that about your work. And I have two kind of questions about the technical work you do as far as the type of tattoos.
Yeah.
Because now I've seen you hand draw on tattoos with whether it be pens, and I know every artist, we're not about to dive into all your secrets and what makes yours so unique, but I also know people do transfers. What helps you differentiate between a job and which is going to be called for what? How do you know, okay, I'm going to go about this to hand draw, or this is going to be a whole applique and some airbrush? What makes you, is it timing? Is it the longevity of the wear? Is it the placement?
All of
What
it.
is it?
All of it.
Okay.
It is actually very, so this is kind of the reason why I love that I have an actual tattoo background other than just makeup background, because the reason why certain tattoos work the way they do, like if you ever get a tattoo on your hands, you'll know that that will fade way faster than a tattoo on your arm, right? Same thing with temporary tattoos. I have to know that when I'm putting it on, how is it going to wear on set? How is, how much is it going to go through a lot of climate change? Is it going to have a lot of, changes and sweat and like make other application? So it's a kind of a conglomeration of all of those things. I have to have all those details before I go in. I mean, I can on the fly do something if they need me to. And I have like literally, I think one of my like third jobs in the union was like, we were on set getting with the camera on and they were like, can you do a big like tattoo on his neck? And I was freehand. And
like, yeah.
I had my knees in the dirt because we were shooting outside and we were shooting on set in an exterior, and it was cold, it was wet, it was very early in the morning, and I was like, yep, I can do it. And so I got down on the ground and I was like, there's no time to do a transfer. It would have been faster to just slap one on, but it wouldn't have fit properly. It wouldn't have looked like what they wanted it to look like. It also was a custom job because it was a very specific scripture the director wanted. So we didn't have that. So in those circumstances, I kind of have to weigh if I'm doing something that wraps around certain things, is the transfer going to manipulate the way that I need it to? Is it better for me to use a pen, or is it better for me to use airbrush? Like I have to weigh all those things. It's usually size, coloring. I have to figure out climate. Like I said, one of the
Am I going to be, they're oiled up, these greasy military guys in the scene and dirt? Like that gives me anxiety even thinking about what you would have to do, because I'm like, no, my beautiful tattoos, now you're going to cover them. And what if they peel? Like the process of even touching up a tattoo, is that a bitch and a half? Like you have to apply transfers, wipe it clean at lunch, or are you just going in with the pen? It gives me so much anxiety. Scrap the whole idea.
It's all of the above. I think it just, like I said, I've been doing it for so long, you can kind of just instinctively know what has to be done. I do use a variety between different pens, between like tattoo pens, like actual eyeliners, airbrushing, the Skin Illustrator palettes, the Real Creation. Like there's so many different things you can do to remedy mistakes. Things that, like you said, there's sometimes that I've had people who are like, can we do tattoos all over? And then they put gloves on, and I'm like,
so, why? I could have just done it from here back.
Right, exactly. And I mean, it just is part of what it is. And, You just get used to it and work with the situation. You kind of have to know how to acclimate. That is a very big thing, especially with tattoos, because you have to remember you're working with a 2-dimensional drawing and putting on a 3-dimensional moving, living, breathing canvas. We don't just sit perfectly still. I mean, sometimes we get those great fashion shoots where they're just sitting in the studio, temperature controlled, not a lot of changes.
Yes.
But that's not always the case. So you have to adapt to your environment, to the model. Not every person has the same pH balance. So some people sweat more than other people. Some people, the oils can clear differently. That's a big factor. So it's a learning curve in figuring that out.
Do you feel like what would be somebody's biggest mistake when they're trying to, I mean, like you're for me, complete and utter expert in it. For somebody that's a little bit more not like, novice in it, figuring it out, going about it, what is one of the biggest mistakes you see on set or when other people are applying their tattoos? What would it be? Just the physical steps into how to like let it adhere the most, or is it coloring? Yeah. Where do you feel? I'm like, oh.
Well, especially with transfers, I think a lot of people don't realize that you can't put something on top of a lot of hair. That's a huge thing. I've had that happen to me. I always use the example of Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman had me design a very specific tattoo for a Broadway show. Actually, it was a Broadway show. I was not in charge of doing his tattoo regularly. I was in charge of designing and showing him, teaching him how to do the tattoo. The area he wanted to put the tattoo in was he has a lot of hair, and he's a very manly man. And just like but the area, men have hair on their arms, and even if you can't see it, we have very fine hair. Yeah, you won't see it to the eye, but once you apply something like airbrush or a tattoo or something on top of it, that may obstruct the tattoo from going on really well. So with Hugh, I kept explaining to him, he did not want to shave the area that we had to do it in, and I explained to him, I was like, there's literally no other way to do it than this. So that's a big obstacle. He did eventually, he was really happy with it at the end when he realized that's what he had to do. But sometimes you have to be practical about what you're doing. You can't put it on hair. Oil is a big thing. Lotion, oil, that's very big deterrent.
The base. I mean, I've done that just in a fly where they're like, I've been on a continuous TV show and every day, same tattoo. And I'll be just like, oh, Rachel, wipe it down with alcohol.
Yes.
Even to be honest, I don't know about you. I don't know your actual transfers that you have, but the ones that I use, and I forget from who and where, at the time that I did it, but it was the shine. You know how you have to dull it sometimes and just make it look like it's in the body? It was like a full shiny tattoo. And I was like, oh, Rachel, no. I was, my heart completely didn't dull it down to make it look real.
And there's a lot of different methods you could do for that. And I think that was part of when I was telling you about making a tattoo look authentic. Yes. There is a time and a place where a shiny tattoo actually would work for you. And say you have a show where it's like this actor is just got a tattoo. It would be shiny. It would be fresh. It would look very new. It would look kind of shiny. It would, because it would be, I'm talking about fresh out of the tattoo shop.
I have Vaseline on top of her. She's new. Okay.
Exactly. I mean, if you have tattoos, like you said, majority of people these days have tattoos. If you've ever seen somebody come out of a tattoo shop, it's red, it's swollen, and it's shiny, because you have to put, I don't put Vaseline, I put A&D. I mean,
A&D all the way, 100%.
I never say Vaseline. Vaseline suffocates the skin a little bit more. A&D actually will help, let it breathe. But you only do that in the very beginning, and afterwards the tattoo needs to start to heal. You need the oxygen in order to start healing, just like any wound. It's a wound. It's an open wound. A lot of people don't realize it because there's an image on top of it. People think, it's just it's a
cut. I'm not bleeding from that. I'm like, no, that literally punctured my whole skin.
Yes.
What are you talking about?
It's a skin, it's a skin laceration. It's what you are actually, as me taking out my tattoo machines, and actually I'm using needles to lacerate your skin, to inject ink into your skin. So you have an open wound, and at that moment your tattoo is very shiny, very red, and kind of just very swollen. So if you do have a character in that moment, it wouldn't make sense for the character to have a dulled out, aged looking tattoo, right? So this is where I come back to tattoo history, authenticity, making sure that you understand. And I used to teach at Makeup Forever, where I know, like where I know you're from. And I would tell that part. I mean, it's not just application process, it's knowing your character and understanding. A tattoo from the 1950s is not going to be the same as a tattoo from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s to now. The aging process, also the imagery, we've have a huge progress now. To be honest with you, tattoos have not changed a ton since the 1800s. Tattoos are, yeah, they're almost they're almost exactly the same. They haven't changed a lot. There's a new machine that came out maybe about 10 years ago that's a little different, but in general, it hasn't changed a tremendous amount. So the application is the same, but what has changed is obviously, like everything else in the world, trends, right?
What's popular? I feel like the skinny little handwriting,
Yes.
dainty, really fine lines are like in.
Yes,
Not a lot
yes.
of color, just like, yeah, little tiny baby ones
Right.
all over.
And I grew up in like the 80s and the 90s, where it was like biker tattoos and old school tattoos. And then 90s was like 90s and 2000s was all tribals. Like everybody was getting these terrible tribal designs, like crazy stuff like that. So you have to do your research, and that's the biggest and most important part of having it look. It's not just the application, but making sure your character, the time period, and all of that fits into what you're doing. Sometimes you don't have that time and that luxury. Sometimes you're just putting on something on a background after, and it's just an image or whatever. But if this is a focal point of that character, then you want to dedicate a little bit more time to making sure that that looks right.
100. Have you ever had to cover, like, let's say an actor comes in with their already set of tattoos on their body,
Yep.
and now their character requires them to have a whole new set of tattoos or be different? What is that requirement? If I need a clean base, okay, but they want the tattoo for whatever reason in the exact same place that the old tattoo is, I got to cover that,
Yep.
disguise, and now place a new one on. Have you ever had that?
Oh yeah, I've had that. Absolutely. Because this comes back to, again, what I was saying is like the time period. So if you have an actor that has a tattoo from the 90s and they're playing a character that is supposed to be from the 50s, but they want it in that same placement, you have to regress, right? So you have to cover it up. And if you know how to do tattoo coverage, you're going to use something that's alcohol based so that it doesn't come off, because again, that will wear and tear just like a tattoo will. If there's a lot of wardrobe changes, a lot of climate change, but then if you're going to put something on top of it, this is typically what I recommend, because you already have an alcohol base down. You would want to probably do a water transfer, because it's not going to affect the tattoo area, the tattoo coverage, because water won't take off the alcohol based paints, right? So that's kind of the science behind it. You have to kind of do a little bit of chemistry. It's like, okay, you have a tattoo, you have to cover it with alcohol to make sure that it stays in place. And then if you did an alcohol transfer on top of it, what would happen?
It's like an expo effect. I feel like it's going to rip it up, pull it up, or start ruining
Exactly.
the thought work, because the alcohol I'm adhering it with is going to take it's which is crazy to think that it really is like a full science. And unless you really don't know, that's the thing where it's like, I love how versed you are in it. It's really inspiring. Go back to my birthday, like Rachel, because I definitely didn't know that, girl. I was like, I would be on set like, yeah, throw that alcohol on there. I get it when you say it. Of course it makes sense.
Yes. So that's the chemistry. Yeah.
Yeah, you need it. Have you ever had, because you've had a long, I'm obsessed, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen your imagery as far as some of your even most recent tattoos. I mean, but you've worked on a plethora of people, from Beyonce to Taylor Swift to most recently Kendall Jenner. Like, you've had quite, like you said, Hugh Jackman. You've had your series of people. Has there been ever, and it doesn't even have to be those that I've named, have you had a crazy special and or favorite gig that you've done for creation?
People ask me that a lot, and it's really hard to pick just one, because I am very, very lucky to always create something different, especially in
all of them. None of them look
None of them look the same. It's always very different. Occasionally you'll have similar style, like as in tattoo. Like if somebody wants an old school tattoo, it will be and that's my personal style of tattooing. I can copy most styles. But if I'm asked to do something like Hugh Jackman, when he asked me to do his tattoo, it was old school style, and I was like, that's perfect. Yeah, he was playing a cop from the 70s, and he wanted a mermaid with big boobs, and he said, and it made sense for the character, right? So I was like, oh, that is like exactly what I would love to design. I actually recently had to design something for Ray Donovan, and I love the show. And it was supposed to be, I was not on set. I only designed and I sent it off. That happens a lot for me too. So sometimes I have jobs where I get to design these amazing things and I don't actually always get to work with the actors themselves. And then other times like Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Kendall Jenner, I get to create these really awesome pieces. And each so different. So it's hard to say because my heartstrings pull at different things for different reasons. And like the experiences I've had have always been really great, knock on wood, because because I think, and this is what I've come to learn, is that what I do is very unique and different from what they're used to on a normal day-to-day basis, right? What their regular makeup routine is, you know, going on tour, doing like the same, you know, and their makeup looks might look different, but you know, that makeup application is usually the same.
Process, sure.
Right. How often are they getting a huge tattoo or body paint or like that's a very rare
that be still for that, you know,
and that's where I think the specialness comes in because it's so rare for them to get an experience like that. So they're always extra nice and excited and happy. And even if it takes a really long time, they're super patient because they know that it's unique and special. And it, you know, we only have a few hours with this special experience and then it's gone, right?
Right. Let's live in it. Let's be present. They're totally here for it. Not just like, oh, here we go, another beat down on my face.
I mean, and it's you have an image that you work on for hours and hours and hours, and then it's going to be wiped off at the end of the day, and that thing is going to be gone. So, and I really came to terms with it years ago that was what made it more special for me. It's this thing that has, and I've said, it lives for a few hours and it lives and breathes and then it's gone and I have it like immortalized in images and videos and it's just something that will never really go away even though it's gone, you know, on the skin. It's gone, you know, temporarily off the skin, but it stays forever and everything else.
I love that. That's a really good way to think of it because especially like you're saying, I can't even imagine the hours of detailing or designing or getting your history on the exact, like you're saying, the genre of the tattoo or the time period or where it's the placement, all these things factor, which I also love that you were saying you really kind of like that. Is it old school vibe? What is the actual, your kind of genre of love is what?
It's referred to old school tattoos. So old school tattoos. Yeah. I actually border on, we call neo-traditional or old school traditional. Neo-traditional is a little bit more of a modern twist on old school traditional tattoos. So if you think of old school, it's going to be Sailor Jerry, Ed Hardy. I mean, some of the guys that those are the names that people know, but there's older guys that I know that are like Lyle Tuttle and, you know, like Rollo Banks, and there's all these super old school, the Kowalski brothers. There's all these old school real tattoo artists that this came from the 40s and the 50s. Ed Hardy, who people know from the 2000s with all the shirts and all that stuff. He's a real tattoo artist. We refer to him as like the godfather of tattoos. And we have the grandfather of tattoos who was his teacher with Sailor Jerry. So there's a lineage of history that comes from that. And I refer to mine as more neo-traditional. So it has old school flavor, but it's a little bit more of a new school style.
And it's here. I don't know, and I don't want to offend you in your style as well of saying it, but I feel like it has a really, I don't want to say girly, but it has that really, it has like that flair of like flirty and cute. I love it. And there's beauty. I don't know if that's your like little makeup artist like peak.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I can't get away from that only because I'm super influenced by Japanese art and Asian art, which is kind of on the kawaii style. And I feel like I'm like a mixed pot of those things. Like you said, I mix my makeup stuff into it. I mix like Japanese style, kawaii, old school, traditional, new school. And it kind of is like a melting pot of those things to create my own.
But then it's like, this is where we get your style and what makes it so cool, because all these things that are like melted together and then bam, there's your originality in it, which I don't know how people have seen, and you being in quarantine, if you come out with them, and I want to talk about it a little bit, it's those stickers, and you have even shirts, and I think you're sporting the shirt right now, correct?
So obviously we have been through some some we've been through a little bit of a rough year this year, right? And
Yes.
I took to quarantine, and I had just literally gotten my iPad right before quarantine hit. And so I was dabbling in digital art, and I was just sitting around, like, as I normally do, drawing. And I really love tongue-in-cheek art. That is my love, my passion is I love comical things. I love like it being a little, yeah, I love juxtaposed too. So I kind of always do something that's it's funny, but it's also like the truth. So it's like I have
Right.
so
And it's relatable because I feel like that's the kind of content. I hate that word and we love the word, but content that people want because
right.
I love a graphic and I like something that I can identify and I feel is relevant, but also speaks to like all the stickers we can even see in the back. Like I ordered, I think your mascara when I ordered, and
So,
I love.
so
They're
I mean,
so beauty baby blender. Like I love. They have the faces on them, which make them little characters. Look at her with the bow. I'm dead.
they're
They're
sparkly actually. I don't know if you could see them in the camera, but these ones are sparkly. I did do a couple other ones. I mean, I draw what I know. I draw like things that speak to me. And I also like the 2020. I was like, this year is a shit show. Sorry. I mean, like it was. And and it was like, I love the comedy, but like you have to kind of sit back and laugh at certain things and make light of it as much as you can. And that's what I try to do with a lot of my art, because I do, other than making beautiful things or things that make people, I love making people laugh. And if anybody really knows me,
they're always the ones to do it too. If you ever look, it's like anytime where like the world is just crashing and burning, the artists always come up with something to inspire us, rejuvenate us, get us excited, even though if everyth's like you're saying, like a full dumpster fire right now, it's okay. Well, let me make some art and make the best of it and get some laughs out of people, making them
yes,
feel good. Something to just get your heart smiling for a day, a second, something. I
100%.
love
I
yeah.
I really wanted to make people laugh. And then after making people laugh, I wanted people to have mini smiles. I call them mini smiles. There's just like those moments that you just like pull out and pluck out when you're having those just terrible days where you're watching the news and you're hearing about all this crazy stuff. And I just like I knew people were in a dark place. I knew that I was having those moments of struggling with what was happening. And we have so many important situations going on with like election and Black Lives Matter, and it was just, the world was on fire. I mean, it's still on fire. Not it was, it's still on fire. So
We are, yeah.
so to step away from that for a little mental health, honestly, for myself, I started thinking about, I was like, I just want to make people happy for a little, like a moment. So I started doing like these little stickers, and I was like, I do makeup. Why don't I have makeup art? Yeah, like I was just like, I just like, look, what do we use every single day? Rachel, what do we use mascara? Like
everything, but also now, and I was telling you this earlier, I love when, I mean, we're all, look at this brush, I'm crying. All our kids now are becoming little micro babies. And so if I can finesse it and make a cute moment, like you said, me going through my kit, and sometimes it is stressful with it being COVID. It's not like every day is as blissful as it was on set, not to take away, you know, the excitement, everyone who's grateful right now, blessed to have work. But it is still a little scary. It's a new scene. It's a new environment. So if I can look down and see a cute little mascara smiling back on me, you bet my ass is probably going to laugh and like giggle and be like, okay, bring it back. There's some lightheartedness in it.
Yeah,
you know?
that was very important. That I wanted to give back to the community something just that was lighthearted and fun. And so actually my dream, I'm a pin collector. And so my dream was to make enamel pins, and I was like, how do I even do that? Like I didn't know how to actually make it. So I just drew the designs. Like I drew everything, and it wasn't intentionally to set out to make the pins and to make stickers. That wasn't it. It was just to draw them to make people smile. And then I was like, it would be great if people could carry this with them so that they had it, so that they could have that moment where they look at it and they smile. I just know those things that make me do that. And like,
and it's thing, the intent when you're a creator like that, it's like, what would I want to see? What would I need? And then when you create like that, I always think the product ends up coming out 10 times better because you're creating from a place of want and need within yourself that if I'm feeling this way, hands down, at least 100 other people are feeling it as well. It's just a guarantee, especially in our industry. Please, it's more than identifying, which I'm super stoked. I've ordered mine. I want everyone to check those out. My last tidbit for you is because it being Halloween season and you being our tattoo pro girl in my eyes, and hopefully everybody else's, but for Halloween, do you have anything else that you feel like you want to create or that's going to be incorporating tattoos? I feel like this year we still might be seeing a lot of Harley Quinns.
Oh my God, it's like going to be like the 5th year, right?
I'm past it. I'm like, enough is enough. But I'm like, what are they gonna pull? I don't know.
I mean, I'm a huge comic fan. But I'm also a little bit of a purist, so I love the original creation of Harley Quinn from the 90s. That's what I grew up with, the Batman animated series. This is my nerdiness coming through for sure. I'm a huge comic collector. I go to the cons. I used to work the cons. I used to sell my artwork at cons.
They're fun. I've worked some for body paint and they're fun.
Yes, they're super fun. I don't hate on it, but it does, like you said, when you see the same makeups over and over again, I kind of feel like people need to get a little bit more creative. I in the past have gotten to do some really fun makeups, but also tattoo work because that's what I'm known for. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. So I'm, it's COVID. I'm a COVID brain.
Where am I?
What day is it? So last year I got to create some you asked me what some of my favorite jobs were. This was probably one of the top, I would say top 5 for sure. I created this gorgeous dragon tattoo and 2 koi sleeves for Alexander Wang.
Fine. Love that.
I will post, actually I was gonna post them for Halloween season, resurgence of that. It was a massive a massive job because it was 2 giant sleeves, full color, and 1 giant full leg piece of a dragon that wrapped around the leg, not even just down the side, it wrapped around the actual leg. So I had
for Halloween, like this was what they wanted.
Yeah. So Alexander Wang was going to be in kind of like a drag queen. He'd never dressed in drag before, but he wanted to be kind of like this very seductive, like serpent-like Asian drag queen. And so he had this giant Asian hairpiece that was made almost to look like an Asian fan. He had the claws, the red claws. He had the tattoos. So it was a very original art, all original character.
Where it's like you take like a theme or inspiration and then they create something versus just copycatting an already done character, which is always impressive to see as well. But I love when people just create because it's art. And then if somebody asks you what you are,
right?
You look like a spectacle to look at, and it's sick.
Right. Like, it's a living piece of art.
Right. Yes. That's actually really sick. And I'm going to need you to for all the photos. Have you put them out yet? Did you put those photos out?
I did it last year. They did come out last year when he went, because I think actually, I'm sorry, he went to Heidi Klum's party. So it was for Heidi. I totally forgot.
I was going to say, it must have had to been and everyone and their mother. I mean, hello.
Like I said, it's COVID brain. Sorry, everybody. It was for Heidi Klum's party, so it was an all day affair. It took me several hours to do. I had two assistants. Aya and Rosa, who were amazing. Thank you, girls. Thank you so much for helping me. On several of my other tattoo jobs, I especially in that genre, I've had Erica Ensinger, Erica, who I love. She's my ride or die. And I very rarely go into a job with tattoos that's that extensive without help, because there's no physical way you can really do it.
No, you're covering so much body, and for it to be like so perfect, and then in time, just time-wise alone to get it done. So imagine you sitting there for how many plus hours you'd have to do to get 2 full bodies and get out of here. I'd be like, no, it's a lot while doing it. I need to eat. I need to go to the bathroom. That's too much. No.
So you have to plan. I'm a planner. I'm definitely a planner. But I work really well on the fly. But for for tattoos on Halloween, I've done Kat Von D, I've done Post Malone, I've done rappers.
And these are all remakes. These are all remakes, you're saying, of what people wanted to look
Yes. So like these are all character designs.
Yes.
These are character designs. Inked Magazine had me come in. Yes, Post Malone. I mean, that's really big right now.
I know. That might still be one that floats around this year. That's totally, yeah. Even when people aren't even doing anything. I hope, maybe just in their homes, but we'll see.
Well, that's the other thing. It's like, I don't really know how Halloween is going to go this year. So I mean, if you want to practice tattoos on yourself at home or whatever, that's a best way to do it. But I would say I really love just unique. I had a guy who he calls it the Jean Short Jamboree, and he's been
I'm sorry?
the Jean Shorts Jamboree. So everybody has to show up in jean shorts, right? And different. He's been doing this party for years. I've known him for a very long time. I think over the 8 years that I knew him, we've done maybe 3 or 4 different variations of tattoos and the jean short. Like sometimes it was friends of his that I would tattoo. Sometimes it was him. And it was just kind of like, sometimes it was kind of like a hillbilly type thing. Sometimes it was like a Daisy Duke type. It was just very different characters. Yeah, I don't know.
Are you painting jeans on these people?
No. So they wear real jean shorts. It was real. That was a requirement.
Clothed. Everyone relax. They're clothed.
So I did not paint the jean shorts on. I did not tattoo jean shorts on. So the characters were more of a like, they're wearing the short shorts and like the cutoff shirts, and sometimes they would do like a hillbilly character that would have like crazy like tattoos and funny tattoos, and sometimes it was like, you know, I've done a lot of Amy Winehouse tattoos too.
I could tell. Yep, 100%. Yep.
I mean, when you go off the names, when you think of highly tattooed people, it's Kat Von D, you know, Amy Winehouse, Post Malone. You have some of the newer rappers, Lil Wayne. You have, you know, what was the other one that I was talking about that I did? Oh, Tekashi 6ix9ine. You know, the fake tattoos. I've done that. Ink Magazine came up with a really fun Halloween tutorial, and they asked me to come in and to do kind of what you're saying, is to create tattoo characters. So that's what we did.
Well, that's incredible, and I hope people take a tip from you. If and when, and if y'all are chilling in your house and playing around, those are some really good twos. Luckily and thankfully for them, I'm going to put all your stuff below so they can see your past work, keep up with you on your next up and coming works, check out your enamel pins and your stickers and your shirts, because you look at you and all the things I'm listing, like you're a huge major business. This is insane. I love it, and so on brand, which for me as a person and looking at other people when you're creating, I so appreciate that. I think it's authentic and real because it's everything true to you. I'm so thankful for you sitting down with me today. I really appreciate your time and expertise.